So the company that owns DC Comics is WarnerMedia. WarnerMedia is owned by AT&T. Jason Kilar is the CEO of WarnerMedia, and he is laying people off. First, the big guys, the little guys to come soon. What's that going to mean for DC Comics? Let's get into the article. Before we do, if you want to support my work, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications. Check out collegeofthedead.com. Graduation Day. It's the second in an ongoing series of zombie apocalypse graphic novels I do. Also, you can sign up at epicmermaids.com for the mermaids. You'll get an email when it launches. It's a full-color comic, 48 pages. Back to the article. WarnerMedia's Jason Kilar on the new Structure Layoffs and future of HBOMax, theatrical distribution, and linear TV. DC Comics is under this umbrella. They're in there. They're a little bit too small to be a big deal to these guys, but it is part of what they're doing, and it's going to ultimately affect DC Comics. This is coming from Deadline, and it's pretty much brand new. WarnerMedia's CEO Jason Kilar shook up the top ranks at the AT&T-owned media company today, consolidating all film, TV, and streaming content under Warner Brothers and Sarnoff. She's the CEO of Warner Brothers Entertainment. The sweeping restructuring includes expanded responsibilities for HBOMax's Andy Forssell and HBO's Casey Bloys, and the exit of top WarnerMedia HBOMax executives, well, they're both men, Bob Greenblatt, Kevin Reilly, and Keith Cocozza. There was a man who was the head of NBC Entertainment who was accused of inappropriate behavior just a couple days ago, and that he was incredibly successful, but he was accused of being not politically correct and making nasty comments. Even though he was very successful, they pulled him out. Bob Greenblatt and Kevin Reilly, these guys, they launched HBOMax, their new streaming service. This was a $4 billion risky bet that HBO was making to basically take the $85 billion investment they made in acquiring Time Warner and turn it into a success. And they did that. They absolutely did that. This is an older article talking about the riskiness of the launch of HBO Max. They committed $4 billion to basically launch the streaming service, including promotion, content, technology, everything. And it recently had a launch in May, and it launched May 27th. They got 4 million signups, which they consider to be very successful. They're at $14.99, so immediately out of the box, these guys can execute. They were successful, but for some reason, they're no longer there because this guy said, hey, let's consolidate, and instead of having HBO Max kind of be its separate operation and buy content independent of the rest of Warner, they wanted to just kind of collapse it into one thing. And he's been asked about that. This guy, the executive that got kicked out, Kevin Reilly and Bob Greenblatt were asked about this. Do they think that ultimately you'll get consolidated out of existence? And he said, maybe 5 or 10 years from now, who knows what's going to happen. This guy just came on 4 months ago. They had no idea that this was going to happen. No one had any idea this was going to happen. And it's not like they weren't successful. Like with any major consolidation, there will be a ripple effect. In his memo to staff today about the restructuring, Kilar spoke of reducing the size of our teams, our layers, and our overall workforce. There was a strong speculation that more restructuring at lower levels as well as major layoffs are coming on Monday. That'll be Monday, August 10th. Hasn't happened yet. I brought up the issue during a broad interview with Kilar about the goals for the new structure, his evaluation of the HBO Max launch, and the company's streaming strategy going forward, how long WarnerMedia will stay in the linear TV business, whether Warner Brothers continues to release movies like Tenet in theaters or just PVOD, which would be premium video on demand, and whether the company would be interested in buying theaters. There was recently a ruling on what's called the Paramount Decree this week, where a federal judge said that movie studios and streaming services, even like Amazon, Netflix, they can buy movie theaters now. There's no more limitation on the distribution of movies through movie theaters, meaning that if they want to buy out theaters, they can buy out theaters. I don't know what that's going to do to competition, but that's a recent ruling. With all the changes in movie distribution over the last couple of decades, it makes sense. That goes back 70 years, that restriction about movie theater chains not being able to be owned by movie studios. Here's what Kilar said about pending further restructuring and layoffs. I don't have anything specific to share about layoffs, but certainly when you think, why are we making these changes, going from 2 to 1 content organization? Because I think that's the best way to serve the consumer, interacting with the talent in the simplest way possible. So we're being very efficient and fast how we work. So he's saying, hey, I'm not going to tell you about the layoffs, but oh yeah, they're going to come. Quote, in that situation, you do have 2 people that used to be in 2 different organizations. Now they are in 1 organization, and there is going to be some tough decisions. Now we have 1 person doing that, not 2 people doing that, given that we are 1 team now. Those decisions, now, the reason they kept HBOMax separate from the HBO and other WarnerMedia team was that HBOMax was its own special operation. It was set up to build pretty much from nothing except the HBO brand and access to a library, but launch a successful streaming service, which they did do. 4 million subscribers in 1 month at $14.99 per month with these 2 executives that are being kicked out. These 2 guys, Bob Greenblatt and Kevin Reilly. And also the idea was that HBO Max was going to skew to a younger audience than HBO. HBO is still a massive business for them. Very, very big business for them. So the idea was that way they would carve out a more youth audience, like youth up to maybe 40 years old, and 40 plus was considered the average viewer for HBO, the standard channel. So that by doing that, they really weren't directly competing. It was kind of like a whole separate organization focused on getting in younger viewers. That's why there were 2 sets. But also because it was a whole separate operation focused on 1 mission. Now they accomplish the mission and they throw the guys out. Those decisions will be made. Reductions will happen. Okay? But I don't have any numbers or specifics to share with you to that effect, other than to say we are going to be thoughtful, we are going to be kind, we're going to be empathic. That's incredibly important. And candidly, that's what that makes today about 2 things. Quote, on one level, I'm excited about where we're going and how we are organized right now, but I'm also very sad and sorry because this is one of the hardest things to do. Say goodbye to some beloved and incredibly talented colleagues, which is clearly, in the case of Bob and Kevin and Keith, how I feel. They are some of the most talented executives in the industry. I know they're going to change the world, and I'm going to root for them every step of the way. Wow. That is like, get the hell out of my business. Wow. I mean, it's a nice thing to say, but it just sounds like, well, thanks for all the help. We'll never see you again. It's like, never? Like, yep, never. In Kilar's memo unveiling the management changes, which streamlined the content side of the company, eliminating multiple top layers at HBOMax, Kilar emphasized the importance of the streamer to the company. It is important to the company. It's just, these guys just launched it. It wasn't easy. They were successful. You just throw them out. Like, if you're working for AT&T or WarnerMedia, just keep this in mind. Like, or any big entertainment company, really, you never know what's going to happen next. Like, these guys are not going to be in the street. I'm sure they're making, Kevin and Bob have tons of money. That's not a question. It's just, they invested all their time and energy in launching this. It was successful. And now they're out. Here's more on what he wants to accomplish with the restructuring. I think that there are 3 things that we should be transitioning to as a company. 1, I want us to be more of a consumer-oriented company as opposed to a wholesale-oriented company. By that, he means direct-to-consumer focus, marketing, distribution, everything, rather than selling through retailers, and that includes theaters. Theaters are a wholesale relationship. The history of the media companies has largely been wholesale. When you think about the last 100 years, whether it's Walt Disney Company, Warner Brothers, Paramount, you name it, those companies have largely created great movies and great TV series, and then they've handed those things to someone else. And those companies then went directly to consumer, whether you're a movie theater, TV network, or a retailer selling DVDs or packaged goods. Okay, yes, that's how distribution has worked forever. Technology's now made it possible that, yes, if you're a content producer, whether it's comics, books, TV shows, and now movies and streaming content, yeah, you can sell direct to consumer because of technology. Two, very much putting a premium on going direct to consumer. Again, with direct to consumer, it is where things are at. That is a really, really important part of our future, to have the opportunity to serve customers directly. Three, this is about going global. We currently have about a third of our revenue outside of the U.S. I think there's a chance for us to have 70% of our revenue outside of the U.S. and 70% of the consumers that we serve outside of the U.S. So they want all direct-to-consumer, net domestic and international. That is what the changes today are very much a function of. I mean, it's a great thing to want to do that. You would have to wonder, like, well, then why didn't you let, these two guys, Bob and Kevin, who just did that at HBOMax, why didn't you put them in charge of a consumer unit to drive the direct-to-consumer? Because they did it successfully domestically. Maybe they could do it successfully somewhere else. The expansion of HBOMax will be one part of the global growth plan. CNN is also envisioned as a key element of that, along with WarnerMedia's interactive business, Kilar said, giving major props, to the cable news network, okay? Their ratings are not that great, but okay. I think their ceiling is so high, and I'm very, very much a believer in news and information around the globe, he said, and frankly, we have the best brand in the world in CNN, okay, when we look at the website traffic and the power of the brand. Also, we have a very strong interactive team, about 2,000 software developers that tell interactive stories. The opportunity to go global with that is also very, very big as well. WarnerMedia's shift from wholesale to consumer-oriented business with an emphasis on direct-to-consumer does not necessarily mean that the Warner Brothers movies could bypass movie theaters, Kilar said. No, they're not going to. Not right away, but they're going to do what Disney does. Whatever Disney does, they're going to follow. Like other studios during the health event, which shut down movie theaters, Warner Brothers went straight to premium VOD with Scoob. Kilar indicated the company's movie distribution strategy will evolve, but theaters will remain an essential part of it. Video on demand, HBOMax, okay. So Scoob, okay. Scoob, after skipping theaters, hits HBOMax next week, so it already went to HBOMax, okay. Unlike Universal's near $100 million grossing, probably more now, of course it is, domestic PVOD release of Trolls World Tour, no numbers were released on how Scoob did, but I heard whispers it made about 35 to 40% less than Trolls World Tour. Okay, well, yeah, if it did as well or better, they would have absolutely put the number out so people knew what they could do. Doesn't look that they lost any money on it. And also, it gets subscribers. That's why, like, these premium video on demand offers for Disney Plus's Mulan and this title, Scoob, and Universal Universal doesn't have a strong streaming service. They went through resellers for the most part with their Trolls 2 offering. But for guys who are building up their direct-to-consumer bases, putting content exclusively through that distribution channel, like this Scoob movie, it's going to draw people to the service. Quote, me and the team, we are big believers in theatrical because consumers care about theatrical. Wow. He's like, listen, if consumers care about it, we care. If not, don't even bring me the argument about who brought me here and who brought me there. So obviously the guys who they just threw out of HBOMax who made it successful, his opinion is, well, consumers don't know who they are. So if we get rid of them, consumers don't care. That's one good defense for DC Comics is they'll still do their DC Comics titles because they think consumers care about them. But if they think consumers don't care about how the comics are being made, how much creators are being compensated, how many titles they do, whether they're periodicals or graphic novels, now you see where the thinking is coming from. What consumers supposedly care about. That's it. That's the loyalty is to the consumer only. I'm not saying that's not changing over time because it is. Wow, even that. Even theaters where he's saying me and the team are big believers in theatrical because consumers care about theatrical. I'm not saying that's not changing over time because it is. I'm going to talk of me as a fan. One of the things I love to do, which when I'm not alone with my wife, and I love to go out and see a great movie on Saturday night at a local cinema. It's a fantastic experience with a communal experience you just can't get on a couch. So I love that. All right. So you personally love something and the consumers care about something. That's all you care about. Not what we did for you yesterday or even what we might do for you tomorrow. It's only what the consumers will care about and what you personally love. Gotcha. Wow, these CEOs are tough. That's not to say I don't consume a lot of content on my iPad. A lot of people often frame these things as binary or mutual exclusive. I don't see it that way. I very much see us being able to lean into theatrical, being able to serve consumers who want to be served that way. And then, of course, we're going to be doing a lot of other things with film format that is direct to consumer. In light of today's ruling, okay, this is what I was talking about earlier, to terminate the 71-year-old consent decrees that have restricted major studios' control over the exhibition process, meaning control over movie theaters and owning movie theaters, would WarnerMedia be interested in buying movie theaters? I don't have any plans to buy movie theaters, Kilar said. He doesn't have any plans to. But if consumers care about them, and he thinks that's what they care about, they'll just buy them. With the exhibition on the brink, Paramount decrees, topple. Yeah. Yeah, this is a bad timing. There's just bad timing for movie theaters that they are losing even more control of the market simultaneously with being closed, simultaneously with the success of all these streaming services that really don't require movie theaters at all. It's really rough for the movie theater business right now. When Kilar joined WarnerMedia, HBOMax was in its final pre-launch stage, and he famously said at the time, quote, "He'll be there to get water and food for people building and cheering them on." 2 months post-rollout, here is how he evaluates it. Hey, so I got you that food and that water, and that was really awesome what you guys did, and we appreciate it. We're just going to go in a different direction because we know what consumers care about, and you're not something I love. So, sorry guys, you got to go. But let's see what he really said. Quote, "I was very happy with the launch for a couple of reasons," he said. "There were no technical bugs. A lot of times when you launch something as complicated in nature as a SVOD service, streaming video on demand, like Netflix, for example, you're going to have issues when you launch. It happened with a lot of other companies before us. The fact that we launched cleanly and robustly is a great credit to the technical team that made HBOMax happen. I was also really happy with the user experience in addition to the content lineup, which obviously is very difficult to replace if you're not WarnerMedia." Okay, yeah. Okay, so nothing to thank Bob and Kevin for. Just the technical team, which, by the way, are still in place. The consumers don't care who they are, and if we can replace them, we will replace them. It's just waiting for the technology. Kilar would not elaborate on potential strategy changes for the platform, but noted we have such an amazing opportunity to do interesting things in terms of our recommendation, algorithms, machine learning, personalization, search, multiple devices. There's so much good stuff ahead, and none of it relies on being loyal to people. One hurdle in the early going for HBOMax has been a lack of distribution deals with Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Expanding, they have no deal with Amazon and no deal with Roku. Expanding the platform's distribution reach is a priority, Kilar said. "Absolutely, we won't stop until we're on every device on the planet," he said. "We have a fantastic start between Google, Apple, and Samsung. I believe that we'll ultimately get those additional distribution agreements done, but obviously it's a function of economics." And Amazon, there's a whole article they had as well on Amazon basically saying, hey, we are not trying to help you guys launch your streaming service. We already got a streaming service. So the big companies will occasionally try to lock each other out of distribution deals because they're competitors. While the linear TV business, especially the ad-supported one, has been facing enormous challenges, Kilar has no plans to exit it and believes the company's networks might outlast all their competitors. Quote, "I think you're going to see two things," he said. One is that these linear networks distributed linearly, and by that I mean cable systems, satellite systems, those are very big businesses because there's a lot of consumers that, again with the consumers, that want content delivered that way. So of course, we're going to lean into that. Lean into it means support. We're going to innovate. We're going to do things that for a long time. We'll be the last ones left in that environment, I bet, because it's a big business. While keeping linear distribution going for HBO and the Turner Network, WarnerMedia will continue to expand their digital footprint with a strong presence on HBOMax. So let me know in the comments below what you think of this article, what you think of WarnerMedia's moves to consolidate and get rid of those guys that launched HBOMax. What do you think it means for DC Comics? If you want to support my work, absolutely subscribe to the channel. Click a bell for notifications so you can find out when new things come out from me. Also, collegeofthedead.com. Check out College of the Dead Graduation Day. Pick up a copy. It's the second and ongoing series of zombie apocalypse graphic novels I'm doing. And sign up at epicmermaids.com to find out when The Mermaids is going to get launched. An epic mermaid fantasy it's like Game of Thrones with mermaids. Full color, coming soon, but you got to sign up to find out when it's coming out. And I'd love to have your support on that too. I will see you again soon with another video, and if I don't see you, I will miss you.